Inanimate objects that a lot of men, people might consider as pets. We're going to talk about a different kind of pet, and our next speaker asked the question, is that a pet a dog that never comes into a house, or a cat that roams the neighborhood? Is a pet a bird or a turtle? A pet is different things to different people. Please welcome our next speaker, Mr. Daniel Pica.
We got lectured from John. That's good. That's right. Fellow conflict communicators, what do you think of when you think of a pet? I think of, in my case, my dogs and our birds. I don't think of a pet as the dog that's on a leash in the backyard, never comes into the house, or the cat that roams the neighborhood and only shows up for food in your back porch. I was going to talk tonight about a lot of statistics on pets. And then I decided I would rather tell a story about two of my pets, and that's Sydney and Chelsea, our two Australian cattle dogs. About 13 and a half years ago, my wife and I decided it was time to get a dog. We had a house with a nice backyard, and we needed to share that yard with a little puppy. So she starts looking at the paper, making phone calls. One night I came home from work, and she said, "We're going to Bainbridge Island this Saturday." I'm like, okay. Now, up to this point, I had never heard of an Australian cattle dog. And then she said, "Mad Max." Oh, yeah, that's right. His dog was an Australian cattle dog. Everybody's looking at me like, Mad Max, that's Mad Max. Anyway, go see it. Mel Gibson movie. So we go to Bainbridge Island, knock on the lady's door. It's a beautiful, picturesque farm. And she answers the door. The puppies are in the barn. Walks us out to the barn, opens the door. You hear a little rummaging in the corner. You look over, and there's 3 little puppies. Let's come in. They come over. It's like, how cool is this? How cool are puppies, right? Can't deny a puppy. So we're on the ground, and they're running around us and everything. And there's this one dog, and he's just running. And you grab him, and he doesn't want to stay in your arms because he's just got too much energy. He's pushing on you and everything. Put him down because he had too much energy. And then there was another, and he was kind of staying on the fringes, and you reach out for him, and he shies away. Well, that's not really going to work. And the third puppy, he's got energy, he's running around. You reach out, you run right to your arms, and you hug him, and you just love it. And he was just right. And we brought him home. And he sat in my wife's hands, about that big, this little puppy. And my wife says, well, you know, they're Australian cattle dogs. It's going to have an Australian name. So he got named Sydney. And Sydney had a pretty good life his first 3 years. This first 3 years, he was with me 24/7. He went to work with me every day, laid under the desk, or laid in the car, or whatever. At lunch, I'd take him for a walk, and he was just glued to me. And to this day, he is. If I'm downstairs watching a movie, I hear him come down the stairs, and he just lays down by me and looks up at me. And that's the way a dog is supposed to be treated. It is a family member. Sydney, we took to obedience training. And I remember getting very upset with the trainer because when he was doing his test, there was the sit and stay. And everybody has to walk to the other end of the room, and the dogs aren't supposed to budge. And there was a boxer called Dieter. that now every time I see a boxer, I call him Dieter. He was owned by some elderly people that Dieter was way too much dog for. Well, anyway, what Dieter wanted to do was mount Sydney. And Sydney, for the longest time, just put up with it, but then finally he was just like, hey, enough! And shoot him away. And the instructor said, Sydney failed. It's like, Sydney failed? Are you kidding me?